Hold on. Testing. Are we live on YouTube? We are here. We made it. What's up, guys? Welcome. Hello, Combat Jiu-Jitsu fans. It's Alex Wendling here, and I wanted to bring you the latest and greatest news in Combat Jiu-Jitsu. Wow, what a weekend we had. First of all, Medusa live chat that we had. Awesome. Loved everyone who came, like one person. But in all seriousness, that one was fun for me to make. It was kind of less planned than this one was. I feel like this one, I have a lot more highlights for you guys and a lot more analysis. And I'm not going to lie, the one on Saturday, I was a little bit high. I had just done competing, and it was the first time I had ever competed at a competition. And I had a little fiasco happen before the competition, which gave me anxiety. And I was like, you know what? I have this J and I'm going to smoke it. So this past weekend was the first time that I ever competed high. It was fun. And that's why the live was a little bit, not super prepared, because I was a little bit sleepy by the time the show ended. But anyway, Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Welterweight division was insane. I think a lot of people thought it was going to go the way that it did, Andrew Tackett winning, but that dominantly, I was honestly pretty impressed. So we had 16 men vying for the spot for Combat Jiu-Jitsu. And I just want to go to first the bracket that we have, which has, starting off with Andrew Tackett on the left side versus Nicholas Wiley. He is a 35-year-old man versus 19-year-old Andrew Tackett. That's what we're going to start off with. Then we're going to go to Bruno Canetti versus Bobby Emmons, who Bobby Emmons I know has some good leg lock game, and Bruno Canetti coming out of Our Town MMA. So he's a little bit more of a, I guess, specializing in MMA versus in jiu-jitsu, which is great because this combat jiu-jitsu and slaps are allowed. Then we had Aaron Wilson versus Mikey Gonzalez, Davis Asare versus Kaleo Romero. Excited to see what Davis Asare had to offer, just because, when you carry all the weight of new wave jiu-jitsu, you're expected to do a lot of great things. And when you don't have a great night, the eyes are on you for that. So there was pressure on him in that sense. And then on the right side of the bracket, we have Alan Sanchez versus Ivan Leva. And then Aaron Harris, Andrew Cashel, Oscar De Los Santos versus Jacob Rosales. Jacob Rosales has a lot of MMA experience coming from LFA, was on an 11-0 MMA win streak. So he's taking his talents to the jiu-jitsu scene. And then finally, the spark that I never knew I needed in my life, Derek Rayfield versus Shane Shapiro. My favorite match out of all the first round, out of all the fights in the first round, Derek Rayfield and Shane Shapiro were my favorite. So we'll jump into the very first matchup, Andrew Tackett versus Nicholas Wiley. And when you look at Andrew Tackett and everything that he has to offer, he trains out of UFC Fight under Rodrigo Cabral. He's 19 years old, and he's able to take out 15. Well, I guess he didn't go against all the other 15, but he won a 16-man bracket at just 19 years old. And he's been training since he was 6 years old. Born in Orange County, moved to Austin, Texas, which now is such the scene for jiu-jitsu. And it's kind of just coincidence that Flo ended up moving there, and Joe Rogan and a lot of the MMA scene ended up moving to Austin. But his submission game and the storyline of this combat jiu-jitsu session is that he was just able to hunt the bag time and time again, whether it was like in a wrestling scramble sequence or if it was like even being able to pass someone's guard. Like Bobby Emmons, he does such a beautiful guard pass that I've never seen before that honestly looked kind of like a lazy just fall back into it, but he just made it look so smooth. I'm like, wow, I wish I was training when I was 6. Just kidding. That's what everyone says. Anyways, he has he's got first place at ADCC Las Vegas Open in 2022, first place Midwest finishers at 185 pounds, and third place at the Who's Next tournament. If you guys watch that, Flow Grappling's production there. And yeah, so let's get into his first fight against Nicholas Wiley. It was Basically, they went out of bounds and he had to get reset. He already had a body triangle set in and basically not the rear naked choke locked in, but as you can see here, it wasn't under the chin or anything. It basically just became a face crank, showing that as a 19-year-old boy, he still has the strength and technique to finish the choke. Very impressive there. And then we go on to our second match of the evening, Bruno Canetti. Bruno Canetti versus Bobby Emmons. And this one, it went to overtime. I didn't think it was that interesting in the jiu-jitsu sense, but I did appreciate these slaps from Bruno Canetti coming down. And Bobby Emmons ends up winning in overtime. And he ends up having to see who we just saw won, Andrew Tackett, in his next match. And you have to imagine, like, Andrew Tackett had just subbed someone out and didn't have to expend that much energy, whereas Bobby Emmons went through overtime and then he has to get into that fight. So it's all, trying to conserve your energy in the right way is a big focus. But now we have our first match with Davis Asare versus Kaleo. And here I was just so impressed because I would be so nervous if someone had my neck like that, but to be able to athletically spin and then also get their back just looked so instinctual, so impressive. They must be doing something right over there at New Wave Jiu Jitsu. He is a lone purple belt over there. He was kind of taken under the wing of Big Dan when he first moved to Austin, Texas from Norway. So, I mean, you got to imagine you're training with those guys and you get opportunities at combat jiu-jitsu. You're going to want to put on a show. And I think his match with Andrew Tackett was impressive, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'll show you guys the highlights soon, but it was just like, did he kind of get tired and like not even, I don't know. It's hard to tell what goes on, or was it just like technical moments that he was messing up on? But very impressed from Davis Asare. Can't wait to see what he does. And if we just quickly look back at this bracket, that wrapped up the left side of the bracket. So Andrew Tackett won by rear naked choke. Bobby Emmons won in overtime. Mikey Gonzalez by leg lock. And then Davis Asare. And now we're going to move to the right side of the bracket where Alan Sanchez kicks it off. And a lot of people heading into this were saying that Alan Sanchez was another favorite along with Andrew Tackett. So when we look at Alan Sanchez's his highlight here, he, similarly to Andrew Tackett, is hunting the back. So guys, I hired a virtual assistant and she's helping me with things. So now I don't have to click the slides all by myself. Shout out Lakisha. Yeah, so he does a great job of hunting the back here, making quick work, which is basically what you need when you know you're going to have multiple matches. That's funny. That's funny. Sorry, I just had to check on my dog. She has cancer right now, and I don't know where she went. She's a little Frenchie. If you guys follow my YouTube channel and have seen her, she unfortunately has lymphoma and it's spread, and she's very little, so we don't know how that's going to go for her. But Alan Sanchez did a great job on that guy's back, and he moves on to the next round. And oh my gosh, on the right side of the bracket. So I've been having these like mind-blowing moments when watching some of these combat jiu-jitsu events. For instance, last combat jiu-jitsu with the team duel, I was super impressed by Ben Eddy and everything he was able to do off the back with his rubber guard. Well, for this competition, the person who did that eye-opening moment for me was Derek Rayfield. Derek Rayfield trains out of 10th Planet Vegas under Coach Casey, and he is very unorthodox, plays a lot off of his back, and his highlight is one of my favorites against Shane Shapiro here. Yeah, so Shane Shapiro, great pressure, and he trains out of Syndicate MMA, looking like he's doing a decent job. But again, like just the dexterity of Derek Rayfield's hips and ability to just go into rubber guard like that without even being on the hip to like make it easier on your flexibility. Like, no, he doesn't even need that. And he's just slowly inching his legs closer and closer to your body. Luckily, Shane Shapiro is able to escape this. But after a little scramble session happens, oh, wait, we can't forget about this part. This is another favorite slapping moment of mine next to Bruno Canetti. And I think my favorite part about that slap sequence is that the way Rayfield defended it was with his feet. But then here you'll see the anaconda choke gets taken in, and Derek Rayfield on my radar after that. Just because I have issues getting mounted every now and then, and I just want to do what Derek Rayfield does, and he just like puts his foot right there, and it's just like, nope, I'm gonna get out of this. And I'm like, okay, that makes me feel like I need to stretch for at least 3 hours a day. And it's impressive, and I love it. Him, Ben Eddy, those type of unorthodox grapplers make me excited to be like, oh shit, I can actually do a lot of stuff on my back if I work that game. All right. So we just got done watching the first round of all the matches. Now we're going to get into the very first quarterfinals. And I think in the first matchup of the quarterfinals, we have Andrew Tackett and Bobby Emmons. But I'm not sure if I see him. Oh, yes. Perfect. Oh, my gosh. This is the guard pass that I'm talking about. That is so beautiful. Everyone watch. How? Just how? Lakisha, we're going to have to get a replay on that if you can do that one more time, because he just makes it look so easy. How do you literally just slip to the side off like that and manage to take the back? I mean, granted, there's probably some black belts that'll be watching this and just be like, well, that was actually so easy. Bobby gave him back. But like in my white belt eyes, I'm like, wow, that was so smooth and quite the back take. And he just has like, it's one thing to say that you want to go out and find people's backs and become a backpack and choke them, but it's another thing to just do it in that manner and find so many different ways to get to the back. So I love that. That was the first quarterfinals between Andrew Tackett and Bobby Emmons. Another match where Andrew kind of got to conserve some energy. So he will still have 2 more matches, a semifinal and the championship if he wanted to become world champion. And spoiler alert, he's the one who won. If you guys didn't know that already, though, you must not have like an Instagram or something, because it was all over Instagram. So then we're going to go into our next quarterfinals. And it would be the Mikey Gonzalez versus Davis Asare one. And that one had the straight ankle one you sent me, Lakisha. I think this one. Yeah, so here, Mikey Gonzalez, who is also a really good leg locker, manages to use the most basic of leg locks to beat someone, which I was like so impressed by. Can we replay it one more time, just how strong he was able to grip it? But it almost like looked like Mikey Gonzalez didn't even fight much out of it. Like I would think that he would at least put the foot on his hip, like take that off and try to fight out of it. But it looked just so immediate that it was pain. And he was like, I'm trying to go to the club out in Mexico after this. Like, I don't need that. So evidently it was a really tight straight ankle lock. And I think BMAC was the one who said, like, make straight ankle locks great again, because a lot of people think that because they're just straight ankle locks and they're super basic that they don't work and stuff, but they work. They hurt. Any suggestions on someone who has boxed before and wants to get into MMA? Hey there. Thanks for joining. Maybe at the end, I will answer that question. I just don't want to talk about it for the people that are here for the jiu-jitsu stuff. But if you have a comment about combat jiu-jitsu, let me know. Thank you so much for being here. And okay, so that wraps up the quarterfinals for the left side of the bracket. Davis Asare moves on after defeating Mikey Gonzalez by straight ankle lock. And Andrew Tackett moves on after beating Bobby Emmons for his second rear naked choke of the night. And now we're going to go to the right side of the bracket, where Alan Sanchez is going to take on Aaron Harris. Aaron Harris won by overtime, so I didn't include any of his highlights against Andrew Cashel. But Alan Sanchez versus Aaron Harris is next. And that highlight basically just shows a nasty guillotine. And here, it was one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. Don't tell me this is some pro wrestling stage shit. And I'm saying that super sarcastically. Like, I know that wasn't staged, but it looks so like easy for Alan Sanchez to have gotten. And don't get me wrong, like, it's so easy to get caught on any type of takedown in a guillotine if you don't have your head placement right. But I think what had happened, and like, you guys share your opinion with me too if it looked like super easy to you. I think that Aaron Harris was just super tired from his last match because he had just got done competing in not only the regulation but also overtime, that by the time he got to this match, he was probably had his second win, but like after doing a wrestling takedown and getting guillotined like that, he just didn't have much fight in him. But like, literally, there's so much time on the clock. Like, this started at 10 minutes and we're only 30 seconds in. He goes for a takedown, and then the fight to get out of the guillotine was just not there. So I'm assuming he was exhausted. So yeah, if you have any good advice for getting out of guillotines, let me know, because I like to think of myself as a good white belt wrestler, and I always try to get takedowns, and I always get my neck ripped apart. Anyway, now we're going to go on to the next fight in this quarterfinals. Oh, I don't know if we went through Jacob Rosales and Oscar de los Santos. Okay, so the quarterfinal match between Jacob Rosales, the MMA fighter, who also went on Dana White Contender Series, versus 10th Planet Vegas Rayfield, is this one. And again, just so impressed by the back game of Rayfield. So Jacob Rosales doing a good job of defending an armbar, but then he goes full dead orchard here and is able to just loosen him up with a slap, but then ultimately gets a crank there. Glad he tapped, because that could have been ugly. But yeah, I mean, that's a smart game for Derek Rayfield to play. He's playing against Jacob Rosales, who has a heavy wrestling background. He used to train at Combat Submission Wrestling, moved over to the Den Training Center so he could stick with his coach. And I feel like if you're going against someone who's like heavy pressure wrestling, like working off your back and being able to expose those holes in their game is good. So dead orchard into some type of arm lock. All right, so that wraps up the quarterfinals for the right side of the bracket. Now we're going to get into the semifinals. So out of the quarterfinals, you had Alan Sanchez beating Aaron Harris by guillotine choke in like 30 seconds. So he's total in his two matches so far, he's maybe had a minute of competing, maybe a little bit over a minute of competing. And then Derek Rayfield, he beat Shane Shapiro in his first round, and now he beat Jacob Rosales using that dead orchard. And he is going to move on and face a fellow 10th Planet, not teammate, but, 10th Planet family member in Alan Sanchez. And then on the left side of the bracket, we're going to get Andrew Tackett, IBJJF phenomenon, and Davis Asare, New Wave's new guy. Okay, so left side of the bracket, just in case y'all were confused, Andrew Tackett moved on, Davis Asare, and now let's get into David. Asare quarterfinals. Asare. Here we go. Yeah, so they did some fun wrestling at first, and then Andrew Tackett is just able to find the back for the third time tonight, and this time it just looked, just as smooth as the last ones. Like, I was surprised there was not even much like hand fighting. It's almost as if as soon as he got to the back, he just felt like it was over, or maybe he felt defeated. And I don't know. In those moments, shit happens. Because, guys, I have a bad confession to make. This past weekend in my own competition, someone had me gift wrapped and was just smothering me. And I had never done EBI overtime before. And I don't know why I quit. I basically quit. Like, I tapped because, like, it was, like, a lot of pressure and I could feel that, like, the choke was coming. But, like, I wasn't choking yet. And so sometimes I feel like when people don't actually have, aren't actually, I don't know, I just feel like you see in real time people feel defeated and then they tap out before they were actually ready to tap out or something like that. But nevertheless, Tackett moves on and Asare is out. Tackett is going to be on the left side, is the left side finalist. And now we still have to find out Alan Sanchez versus Derek Rayfield in the semifinals. So we might be missing yeah, that was that one. Okay, so here we go. Yes, Lakisha's got it. Alan, semifinal win. He gets a heel hook here. And let's go immediately after. Beautiful, though. I want to see it one more time. I feel like he knew to stay away from the game of Derek Rayfield, which is staying away from like his rubber guard game and working off his back. And he got the best of the leg entanglements here. So on the right side of the bracket, Alan moves on, and Andrew, Tackett, and him are going to be in the finals.
Representing Fight Pass for Jiu Jitsu and Checkmat, it is Andrew Tackett. Andrew's opponent, the last minute pin, is on the right side of the bracket. He represents 10th Planet San Mateo. He is the EBI 19 champion. It is Alan Sanchez.
Probably see Plaster over there. He is one of the floating cameramen, and he is the founder of the Grappling Network. Everything that Plaster has to do with grappling and production wise or combat sports wise is always top tier. And that's why I feel like combat jiu-jitsu events are so well done, is because they have such a good team behind them. And I love watching them. I can't wait till the next event. What was your favorite moment of this event? Did it go the way that you thought it was? Andrew Tackett, 19 years old, able to wipe out a 16-man bracket? Or did you think someone else from 10th Planet was it going to be able to do it? I personally was so happy that I got to find Derek Rayfield's game, because now I want to watch more of his clips and see his type of game unfold and see what he's able to do over there at 10th Planet Las Vegas. And yeah, it was just a really fun weekend of fights. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this past event. If you have anything specific you would like for me to cover, I'm going to try to get an interview with Andrew Tackett coming up and Kaya Jackson. So be sure to check out my past Medusa live chat as well. Drop a comment on there if you have anything that you'd like me to watch. And then let's see. BJJ wins grappling competitions. Yes, I agree. And then this guy, any suggestions for someone who has boxed before and wants to get into MMA? I guess if you've only boxed before, you're gonna have to do some grappling stuff too. So yeah, join an MMA gym. I think if you want to get good at MMA, you should focus on MMA. Like my focus right now is just Jiu Jitsu because I like Jiu Jitsu. But if I ever do want to do an MMA fight, I'm gonna start going to an MMA gym and like working my Jiu Jitsu to be more MMA friendly. Because like if you're competing in MMA, you might not want to always be on your back. Whereas like my Jiu Jitsu game, I actually like pulling people into my guard if I decide not to wrestle. Tackett brothers are amazing. Let me know if you guys have any special questions. I'm literally listening to a podcast that Andrew Tackett is on. So born in Orange County, moved to Austin, Texas. Now Austin, Texas is like the hub of jiu-jitsu stuff. And yeah, his brother has been really killing it, able to beat people like PJ Barch and Ninja Varela, so and able to do it at the highest points, like at ADCC qualifiers and different things like that. I'm gonna have to fact check all of those things, but yeah, basically the Tackett brothers are very inspirational. Jackie G, I feel like I've seen you on some of my other live chats, right? Jackie G, you look familiar, or maybe you're Abby. Thoughts on session wrestling? My thoughts on session wrestling. I don't think I really understand that question. So just a session of wrestling, I 100% love that. I do that every Sunday and Friday with my homeboy, Coach Andrew. I think it's good to like be focused in just wrestling and be thinking about the type of jiu-jitsu submissions that could go on. But I think having an area and a time of week where every time you just go through wrestling stuff, I think is really good. Combat jiu-jitsu is basically slap grappling. I 100% agree. I think someone commented recently on a like what's your hottest MMA take or most unpopular MMA opinion? And then someone was like, combat jiu-jitsu should have been called slap grappling. Because it kind of sounds nice, but I like combat jiu-jitsu, you know? But yeah, basically slap grappling, it definitely better than slap fighting though. I don't even know if that's actually what it's called. Slap fight. What is Dana White's thing? But yeah. Shout out MKTube. Shout out Jackie G. I do not remember this, but I'm going to have to look it up. Also, if anyone has like favorite combat jiu-jitsu moments of all time, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to go back and watch them. I have UFC Fight Pass, so I want to be able to spend some time and watch all of the crazy combat jiu-jitsu things. And hopefully one day I'll be there on site and able to get some interviews and do some work with them because they're one of my favorite promotions. So yeah, that basically wraps up everything that I wanted to cover. Thank you guys so much for joining me randomly on a Tuesday to talk about some slapping and some jiu-jitsu. And I have some new content coming to you soon. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, Snapchat, my name is the same on all platforms. Alex Wendling MMA. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.